Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. Well, it looks like there might be some worrying signs out there from the new How to Train Your Dragon live action movie coming from Universal Studios out there. Now, I did see the first little teaser trailer out there, and I thought it looked really great. I thought the sets looked awesome. I thought the character was spot on and everything else. And of course, our dear sweet dragon looked wonderful as well. Toothless looked really great as well. And well, boys and girls, we've got some red flags because our Astrid character that we'd already known had been kind of race swapped in the past. They'd already cast this for Universal. Well, now we have the first pictures of her out there, and it of course is reigniting the entire controversy all over again. And the reason why people talk about this, the reason why people worry about this kind of thing, is because it's a red flag, boys and girls. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean the movie is going to be bad. It doesn't mean she's not going to do a great job as Astrid. But what it is it's a red flag, what gives us worry about what's going to go on with the rest of this kind of stuff, because we have seen this time and time again, whether it be Hollywood, whether it be video games, when they do this kind of stuff, when they do these kind of race swaps and they don't make the characters look like the original source material, a lot of the time it is a red flag for what's going to happen in the rest of the story. And ladies and gentlemen, that's exactly what everybody is worried about here right now, and that's what we're going to talk about. All right, from our dear sweet friends over at CosmicBook.News and Matt Burgoyne, How to Train Your Dragon woke, Astrid race swapped. That's always the worry, boys and girls, and that's the problem. We have seen this in the past, and the problem with it is that they always end up trying to concentrate on identity politics more than they concentrate on good storytelling, whether it be Star Wars Outlaws, whether it be a lot of the Marvel movies and television series, or whether it be the Star Wars shows that we've seen, all of this kind of stuff. We know when they concentrate too much on identity politics, they generally end up falling flat in other areas. Now, as of right now, we don't know that for sure yet, but because history repeats itself and it doesn't just rhyme, this is why everybody gets cautious about this kind of stuff. This is why everybody freaks out, because of course this is the kind of thing that can end up completely and totally destroying a franchise. And Universal, although in the past hasn't really done too much of this kind of stuff, hasn't been too much of a big advocate for the cult like we've seen with Disney and a lot of the rest of the Hollywood, at the end of the day, this is a red flag that a lot of people need to be cautious about. So we're going to check out this article from CosmicBook.News, getting all of the juicy details and see what everybody's reaction has already been out there on social media. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Let us know what you think about all this in the comment section down below. Do you believe this movie is going to be DOA just because of this one race swap? Do you think this is going to be one of those wait and see situations, or do you think this will actually end up being a really good job and the race swap will be the only thing we have to complain about in the entire movie? Let us know what you think about all that in the comment section down below. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out the links in the description as well. So from CosmicBook.News and our dear sweet Matt McGloin, it could be RIP How to Train Your Dragon, folks, as a controversy has erupted online over the question if the flick is woke, and it learned Universal Pictures has possibly race swapped the character of Astrid with Nico Parker, or at least has changed the look of the character, right? Because Nico's actually mixed race. I think she's got like a grandmother that is like full on Black American, or like I think she's actually from like Zimbabwe or something. But at the end of the day, if this is the only thing we have to complain about this movie, I'll be very happy. But at the same time, this always is a sign. This is always a red flag. I am still cautiously optimistic for this movie because Universal hasn't given us a reason to think otherwise that they won't try to do a good job. But red flags exist for a reason. So the first footage has been released showing off the characters. You can see right here with, obviously, you got them right here looking at all of that kind of stuff. The first feature screenshot via Universal. Obviously, you can see there's a little bit of a hairstyle difference, not too much of a skin tone difference, but obviously a huge hairstyle difference, and the color of the eyes aren't going to be right either. So what is potentially alarming is that the live action movie is from the same writers and directors of the animated movie who first made Astrid a blonde white Viking. However, we see they might have caved to woke demands at the time of developing the movie by casting Nico Parker, who apparently is a POC, as reportedly her mother, actress Thaddeus Newton, who has a Zimbabwean mother, is biracial with one black parent. So we're literally like talking like second generation removed here at this point. And obviously you can tell from the pictures, the girl isn't exactly screaming super dark on these kind of things. Actually, I believe if I remember correctly, the term Hollywood uses to disparage actors like this, the one that they actually use reference to Pedro Pascal is white passing, which personally is probably one of the most racist things I've ever heard come out of Hollywood. But hey, it's Hollywood. We know it's all about race to them. And normally that's how you end up finding the racists. Regardless, Nico Parker does look different than the animated version of Astrid, as she sports dark hair and eyes compared to the blonde locks and green eyes of the animated series actor. So as you can see right here, obviously she's got dark auburn eyes. I mean, obviously she's still a beautiful girl, very lovely thing to look at. I mean, but at the exact same time, like I said, this is a red flag. We do see that they give Nico Parker blonde highlights for the movie, but why not make her entirely blonde to match the animated character? Likely, in defense, you'll hear Nico Parker was the best person for the job, and that might end up being true. I mean, obviously, we've got the famous race swap of Samuel L. Jackson in the MCU out there as Nick Fury, and obviously a lot of fans were like, this was back before we were worried about this kind of stuff, before we knew that Disney and all that stuff, Hollywood was concentrating on this identity politics stuff all the time, and everybody loves him as Nick Fury. Nobody complains about it anymore because he was probably the best person for the job at the time. Did his skin color factor into it, especially knowing what we know about Disney Marvel now? Probably so, but either way, a lot of people aren't going to complain about this. And if this girl can nail this out of the park, if she can really knock it and this doesn't end up being what a lot of people are feared about, then you know what? A lot of people aren't going to complain, and we'll all be very happy to admit that we were wrong and that our fears were unfounded, and they ended up doing a really good job, and she really was the best person for the role. At the end of the day, though, we will find out. If How to Train Your Dragon is indeed woke, you can expect the flick to elevate Astrid while making Mace's Thames, Hiccup, or any of the other male characters look like complete imbeciles and fools and jokes done at their expense, which is exactly what we saw happen to the Harry Potter movies, right? And I know a lot of people love those movies, and I get it. But as a fan of the books, I really don't like those movies overall as a whole. There's no Peeves in it, and of course they screw over Ron in all of his heroic moments and literally give them to Hermione. Those movies are woke. Ladies and gentlemen, whether you love them or not, they are woke because they take Ron and they make him into a joke instead of being the hero that he becomes in the stories, ladies and gentlemen. And hopefully, Universal doesn't make that as same mistake, because if in the modern era that we live in right now, they will get absolutely destroyed and absolutely roasted for doing this kind of stuff. And honestly, it will end up costing them hundreds of millions of dollars, just like we've seen it done to the rest of Hollywood out there. So we're going to see what happens. Mark Kern, and CEO and designer, the former team lead for the original World of Warcraft, aka Grums, out there over on the X, producer of Diablo 2 and StarCraft, chimed in on Twitter. Kern's comments following the gaming industry is getting decimated due to the inclusion of the woke agenda, particularly with Assassin's Creed Shadows and more. Kern, who goes by the handle of Grums on X, says we must reject the DEI agenda and goes over why. Games and movie studios randomly insert POCs into historically white culture for no good reason. Stunning and brave! People noticing the pandering called racist and phobes. We are here, which of course, that's kind of one of the things we're going to hear about. I'm sure I'm going to get some of the people out there in the comments who didn't watch the video at all, who didn't understand my point of perspective at all, and I'm going to be called a racist, which is always the funniest thing in the world considering I'm half Mexican and I come from a biracial family. All my siblings are halves, so it's absolutely hilarious at the end of the day. But nonetheless, those are the kind of comments we're going to get, boys and girls. I promise you that. Next, articles come out saying, well, actually, there were historically POCs in this white culture, and they were really kings and queens and epic samurai, etc., etc. Obviously, we can talk about the all the backlash that Netflix had with the Cleopatra movie where they made her black, the quote-unquote documentary, the drama-mentary that you all saw out there. Yeah, how'd that go out for them? Next, Wikipedia and other fact sites, quote unquote, quickly edit and revise articles to reflect this new reality by retconning actual history. And that's the thing. We don't know where we're going to be at with this. I haven't seen the full response from a lot of the woke acolytes of the cult, the mainstream legacy media out there, but it'll only be a matter of time before we find out. And the real question is, what will be Universal's response to this? Because that's what will tell us the most. If Universal comes back and pushes back, if this chick comes out and decides to shit all over the fans, well, boys and girls will know exactly what we're in for, and they will get the proper roasting that they deserve. But as of right now, we haven't seen that just yet. This is a red flag that we should be worried about, and we should definitely keep an eye on. The actor in the movie are probably fine, unless the writer's room is infected, then expect Astrid to be a strong woman and Hiccup to be crying all the time. That's not the point. The point is that the actual erasure of history to support flimsy fictional narratives in an evil attempt to gaslight you and erase the past. It's Yasuki and Assassin's Creed Shadows all over again. And yes, he's absolutely right. And this stuff should be called out, if nothing else, so that way we can document all of this kind of stuff and make sure that the future generations know what they've been doing and what they've been working on. This is absolutely insane. It's ridiculous, and it is very much demonic and is very much intentional, boys and girls. Whether everybody out there knows exactly what they're doing and are completely and totally involved with it and down for it is a completely different situation out there. But at the end of the day, this stuff happens for a reason. John Trent of That Park Place also chimed in. Also, John Trent's got his Now Fandom Pulse Substack that he's working on out there as well. That's kind of his priority thing, so check that out as well. DEI casting means it's interjected with DEI into the story too. Close your wallets, said Trent. Kern replied, you are likely right. And at the end of the day, that's one of the things that we've seen happen time and time again. When we've tried to be cautious about things, we try to be like, well, let's just wait and see. Maybe they really were just the best person for the role. A lot of the time we have gotten burned in the past time and time again. And the old saying goes, once burned, twice shy. And we are far, far beyond once burned at this point, boys and girls. So I don't blame anybody for being skeptical. I don't blame anybody going out there wanting to call this woke and saying it's going to be a disastrous dumpster fire, because I don't blame you at all. These are the lessons that Hollywood has taught us. They have done this to themselves, doing this kind of nonsense time and time again, and they deserve your ridicule. They deserve your ire. They deserve your mistrust, because it is what they have done to us. They have done this to themselves. They have taught us this lesson over and over again. When they do this kind of stuff, we know exactly what follows. And at the end of the day, it's their fault. They have no one to blame but themselves. But because they're all a bunch of narcissists and egotists, of course, they will fan blame as usual. Another user added, it doesn't matter if they were black Vikings or not in the past. What matters is that the animation Astrid is blonde and white. Valid point. If they ever make a live action adaptation of Naruto, I won't want to see him with black hair because he's blonde. Simple. Absolutely very, very valid point. And we know the way they try to adapt a lot of the animes and stuff like that in the United States. They'll try to hire a bunch of Asian characters and stuff like that. And it's like, that's not what the characters look like in the anime. What are you doing here? Kern replied, that's the best argument. I agree. Where's Astrid? And he's right. They're absolutely right. There's nothing factually wrong with any of the statements they are making. Now, does that mean the movie's going to be bad? I don't know. But this is a red flag. These are lessons that Hollywood has taught us over and over again to be on the lookout for. It's the reason why the majority of these channels exist. It's the reason why the independent media exists in America right now, and especially when it comes to Hollywood and pop culture, because they have done this over and over again, and all of the legacy institutions out there, whether it be Hollywood Reporter, Variety, Deadline, all owned by a lot of the same corporations, literally will tell you that what you're seeing is not true, that it's fabulous and wonderful. And now the people have woken up, because we always have been, and we will continue to be smarter than any of these elites out there, because we collectively know better. We are the culture. We learn these lessons and we carry them on, and we carry them going forward. You can only burn us so many times, and actually it was just once in a lot of cases for most people out there, before no one trusts you ever again. And at the end of the day, that is Hollywood's fault, and they have no one to blame but themselves. It's not the fans' fault. They did this, and they're getting exactly what they deserve. Another user replied, Astrid being a strong female wouldn't much differ from her animated counterpart, but I do worry that they will make it all about her being the MC rather than Hiccup. Let's see how this plays out. Yes, she was very strong, but in good ways. MC syndrome would be the part I worry about. Agreed. Absolutely. And of course, our dear sweet Anna of over at that Star Wars girl over there. Go check her out on all of her social media platforms too, who is expecting a baby as well. So go send her congratulations and shout out to Anna, trying to help fix our population crisis that we are currently facing in the United States. There are plenty of casting examples where the actress looks nothing like the characters they play. That's where hair / makeup / costuming comes in. There's plenty of fan edits out there that show that the studio could have made Nico look like Astrid, but they chose not to. And of course, we know the kind of typical backlash that they would have gotten, the kind of nonsense. And depending on if this actress is actually woke, if she's part of the cult or anything like that, then yeah, she would have told them off. She would have called them racist. For anybody to even suggest or dyeing her hair. I mean, obviously there was a big controversy with all of the kind of stuff when it came to Rachel Ziegler's Snow White, where she flat out said she's not bleaching her skin, and everybody's like, oh my God, that's horrendous. Well, it's actually a really popular thing in like South American cultures and stuff like that for them to bleach their skins because they want to look whiter. So it's not out of the realm of possibility for something to happen. And I'm not saying it needs to be done or anything like that, especially just to play a role in a movie that you'll be doing once. But at the end of the day, hair and makeup could make her look blonde. But if this actress is woke, of course she would have pushed back against this kind of stuff. As of right now, we haven't heard anything out of her mouth. So as of right now, it's completely and totally the studio's fault. We'll keep it that way for right now, because that's what ends up coming down to a lot of this kind of stuff. So Anna's right. Everybody else out there is about this is right. You need to be cautious about this kind of thing. This is nothing but throwing up red flags for absolutely everybody else. Now, did they race swap the main protagonist? No. That would have obviously been DOA right from the beginning. Everybody would have known what was going on about this. But at the end of the day, this is still something to be worried about. And guess what? It's Hollywood's fault. They have done this to us time and time again. When you race swap one character, it shows you that you don't care enough about the source material to be true to it. And if you didn't care enough to be completely and totally accurate to the source material in appearance, at least, how much can we expect you to be loyal to the source material with the rest of the story? How can we not expect Astrid to be some girl boss out there who's going to talk down to everybody and going to treat everybody like crap? And how do we know the men aren't going to be a bunch of buffoons and morons and all of this other kind of stuff? That's exactly what we have to fear for this kind of thing. So I am not mad at anybody for getting upset or calling this woke, because guess what? It's Hollywood's doing that all of us react and respond this way. And at the end of the day, they are getting exactly what they deserve. They have done this to themselves, and they will continue to get this kind of stuff blasted on them over and over again, called woke, talked about the race swaps, getting all of this stuff called out, because they have done this, and they have told all of us fans that we're stupid and ists and phobes and everything else for not liking it. So guess what, Hollywood? I'm glad everybody's angry. I'm glad everybody's up in arms, because you deserve that kind of ire. You have done this to yourself. You have abused and disrespected your fans and your audience and your customers for decades. And now we have finally woken up to it. We are pushing back against it, and you will hear from everyone about this. I hope the movie ends up being good. But at the end of the day, Universal and everyone else in Hollywood is getting exactly what they deserve, because they have done it to themselves. Whether or not this movie actually ends up flopping will only be a time to tell. But at the end of the day, boys and girls, Universal, this is a serious red flag, and you better make sure you really did hire her and cast her, because she was the best person for the role and not just some POC checkbox. Because if you don't, or if you haven't, I promise you, you will hear about it from all of us.